Welcome to Beekeeping Today Podcast Shorts, your quick dive into the latest buzz in beekeeping.
In 20 minutes or less, we'll bring you one important story, keeping you informed and up to date.
No fluff, no fillers, just the news you need.
Brought to you by Better Bee, your partners in better beekeeping.
Hey everybody, I'm in Ohio doing my walkabout, hitting all the great spots, and I'm here at the same time as the Ohio State Beekeepers Association is having their annual conference, and I have a great pleasure of being here. I'm sitting right now in the conference room with Jamie Walters, who is the OSBA president this year. Jamie, welcome to Beekeeping Today Podcast.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of listening to the show.
Oh, fantastic. And, we were talking earlier, and you have a great voice for radio. You have a background in...
Yeah, I back in the late 80s and 90s, I was on 98 and we did 98.1 WMEE. And then I was the guy in the back that had the deep voice and it carried on with a lot of different things. And then with master gardening and a lot of different stuff I got into, I got a voice that nobody can say, I didn't hear that or I don't know who that is.
I've heard that voice.
Yeah, I've heard that voice many times.
That's fantastic. So this is a great show, a great conference.
Thank you.
You have a lot of people here who are very excited about being here. I'm walking through the vendor area. Everyone's just they're walking around, just kind of have that conference eye look of, wow, there's so much bee equipment right here.
This year we really pulled one off. I cannot do this. I mean, the president, I steer the ship. We had everybody, their expertise. This is the most with it. We had 37 vendors this year. We pegged out the maximum capability with 280 people in here. This year with our staff, with all the staff from the board members to representatives to volunteers, we really hit one out of the park this year with over 37 vendors. We've had, we were going to have one lunch period, and all of a sudden we got to 260, and now we're having 2 lunch periods.
Wow.
Everybody was on board this year. We had the absolute best lineup of speakers that everybody, and we took all the feedback from last year, and that's what evolved into this year. So Friday we had Dr. Tracy Farone and Mr. Frederick Dunn, and then we had 3 hands-on classes with a wax class that was making wax bowl wraps, where you put it in the fabric and bed the wax and make it into a plate or vegetables, and it really works. My wife makes hundreds of them. So Delilah Walters is the one who made the wax bowl wraps. Roger Myers, the class, his part of the class was just rendering the wax from cutouts. Mm-hmm. We had Dr. Chia Lin from Ohio State do a dissection lab with 30 participants and 15 microscopes. They got to dissect a queen and a drone. And then we had a mead making class, just not about talking about it, but they actually brought in their own honey and all the different things to make it different tasting, and then actually walked out with a brewing mead by the time class was over. So it's a crazy. We take the positive of it. We listen to all parts because there's always room for improvement. And this year is probably, I've been around OSBA now for 20 years, and this one we really, not to say I'm better than anybody else, but our board really pulled it together this year and had it kicking.
Had a real good team
Yes,
working with you.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. And the mead making class, that's something they can remember this conference in, 6 months, 7 months? Or so.
Yeah, and they'll have a nice brewing mead. That's why I told everybody, come, give me a call in 6 months when all this mead, because some people had berries, some people had licorice, and it's just something to try. And this is the type of thing with a conference where you get to come and see all these different speakers, get to listen to them, and it takes it from the area club and it just increases it. So you get a lot of other outreach with everything else.
So let's go beyond that. And so what does it take to pull all this? How long ago did you start planning for this conference?
This starts in December of each year. Our board gets all together from all the feedback surveys, from all the attendees, from all the vendors. And then we start in January. So in January of 2026, we already have the venue. And then we take that venue and break it down to how many rooms we can have, what speakers we can have, if we want hands-on classes again. Mm-hmm. And then we meet every month. So that Thursday at roughly 7:30 all the time. So all the way through June, July, then we do our launch, and then we meet twice a month, all the way up. So Friday before we came, the Thursday night, we're doing that final checklist of extension cords and power strips and wax and who has this and who has that. Every board member is on every call. This year, just by the attention of what we have and drawing attention, when I joined OSBA, there was roughly 80 to 100 people on the board. And now we're doing it with 20 people.
Wow.
So, and then in the last 5 to 7 days now, we've had up to 9 people that are interested in kind of putting on the training wheels, if you will, and want to be a representative and wanting to help out. So I see OSBA next year in 2026 and 2027 being even better yet.
So being president of the OSBA, you probably have followed a very similar roller coaster as many local organizations and regional and state organizations in terms of memberships and ebb and flow. And the COVID really decimated many clubs around the country.
Yes.
So how has OSBA responded to that, and how is OSBA working to increase the membership?
The membership, it's kind of crazy because before we were running between if you're a first year beekeeper, you get to run and become a volunteer, or you to run and get a complimentary 1-year membership. And then we have our life members that pay once and you're a life member the whole time. The volunteerism and everything took a hit with COVID. And then for us, I wanted to reach out to every club. So each year, the first year I was president, 2024, I think I visited 18 clubs. This year I got to 21. And it's wanting to know what the local resources need. So OSBA is not the parent that tells everybody what to do, but how else can we accent it? So we have the traveling speaker program. We have outreach. We have the OSBA honey judges. We do it as a resource to the clubs and then get feedback from the directors and representatives of their area of how else can we get help. So we had clubs reach out to us and say, we needed help on Gmail. How can we set this up for our club? We did a course on that, one on Excel, one on graphics, one on social media. Anything. We had a first and second part to how to do a basic PowerPoint with paid software or free software. So we listen to what's going on in the region. That kind of comes up, and then we turn on advertise it for the clubs. Can turn on say submit an event. So it's submit an event at Ohio State Beekeepers. They can send in their event, their honey classes, a honey judging, a field day, send it to OSBA, and then we have the media that in the social with Facebook, roughly 10 to 20,000 people a month hit that. So when they see that stuff going on in their area, and with every beekeeper, you can turn around and visit multiple clubs.
Yeah.
So you see what's going on in your next county or the state or another state that's going on, and it's kind of helping each other out at that county and state level.
That's fantastic, and that's definitely needed with any organization, grassroots, if you will, of beekeeping and reaching out and maximizing the strength of other organizations. So that's really good.
And I've seen it. I was the president of the Master Gardeners in Defiance for years, and then we went from this gigantic volunteerism and everything, and then all of a sudden COVID hit. And it's a combination of things. It's a combination of life and family and health. And then all of a sudden it's a new building afterwards, because the younger generation, beekeeping industry is not something where the young generation are into it, where all the clubs now have grants and things like that to help the young people get into it, because it is an expensive hobby. It's an older gentleman's hobby. And now we see wives and husbands as teams. We see kids and mentors. And the best thing I tell everybody, we can turn around and say, this is what my bees are doing, but you have to look at your own microclimate, your own area. And then the best thing you do is hook up with a mentor that you can work with and say, hey, what am I learning? And then read the books, go to the conferences, and get training on beyond that.
Now, OSBA, and you mentioned this, OSBA has a really strong drive towards mentorship. You have a really strong mentorship program. We
have a youth scholarship that we hook up with the local clubs. So that kid or that student that wants to turn around and get into that grant, or that youth, they can turn around. We hook them up with local clubs, so they have a mentor. We hook them up with a virtual mentor. So if that mentor is busy or other life circumstances, that student has somebody at OSBA to turn around and recommend to. And then we turn around and make sure they get the Honeybee Health Coalition book. We look at the training videos, and we talk to them about something that's going on in their area, because it's hard when they say, my bees are doing this. If we're not there, And then we hook them up with a local club so they can have another resource. And those are some of our best. We have one that Tom Rathbun has trained for years, and now she's a first-year student at OSU. And she's underneath Reed, and she'll probably be our next Jim Tu or Reed Johnson and one of our next researchers.
Yeah, and Dr. Reed Johnson, and he's been a guest on the podcast, and he'll be a future guest too.
Good.
Do you have speaking of education, do you have a apprentice and journeyman and a master program within Ohio State, the Ohio State Beekeepers Association?
We used to years ago. It kind of fell apart because we didn't have a certified program. And with the administration with OSBA, everybody kind of rolls in and out. The volunteerism kind of goes up in hours, and then you have people step away. So through life and health changes, that program kind of dissolved, but we turned it over to OSU. And then we're working with Dr. Chia and Dr. Reed about making a certified online program. They just launched the beginner program, and I can get you some dates that you can advertise from Dr. Chia when that program launches. We did a pilot program last year where it was a certified program at your own pace and learn about the basics of beekeeping. And then in May, they had a hands-on class, and they're getting ready to launch it here in a couple weeks.
Oh, fantastic. And those are always so popular these days.
Absolutely.
Everybody learns online.
Yep. And then you can work you work at your own pace where you can go back and ask questions. You can work with your area resources and then look at your mentors and say, hey, I'm learning this, this, and this. And it's got a lot of good book references. So if they have questions, the honeybee democracy, the ABCXYZ, so they can see the factual side of what it was in the past and how beekeeping has changed over the years.
And Beekeeping Today Podcast, for instance.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure it's on their reference list.
Yes.
And Honeybee Obscura.
Yes. Yeah, it's on my phone. In fact, I when I'm driving or anything else, it goes over my phone and my Bluetooth.
Oh, fantastic. I'd like to hear that. So you're in this role. You're going for elections here again, I heard in this morning's meeting. What do you have as recommendation for anybody looking to get involved in leadership in their, well, I'll say, let's focus on the state organization.
Yes.
Wanting to get into leadership position in their state organization and even perhaps president of their state organization. What words of advice do you have?
Words of advice. Work with, and this goes for OSBA, Michigan, Indiana, any other state. Let the leadership know that you want to volunteer. Let them kind of put the training wheels on you, learn the basics of what's going on, how the organization runs, what you kind of need to do, and everybody has their own little niche. When you get up into the leadership, vice president, things like that, learn those different steps, be willing to listen and learn. And then if you got great ideas, take it to the board. If you got the volunteerism and you got the budget to do it, pull that off. When you get up to the leadership, for me, I say that I steer the ship with the majority. So if the majority says, hey, we're going to turn left and we want this program to do, that's your call. I never vote in anything. I like to be open and listen to my mentors, my people, and then listen to the membership. So we put out surveys all the time. We do Zoom calls with open. It's an open mic every first Sunday of the month. I've held that for the last 2 years, and then anybody that has questions from the leadership, from OSBA, what should I be doing in my bees and anything like that, or what's a good resource? We have an open mic for an hour. Every person can have a 3 to 5 minute conversation with us, and we answer those questions. And being available to listen to people, because some people, it's not like putting out a fire, but they have a concern, and you need to, number one, you need to listen. No matter what size of that leadership you're at, listen to their concerns, put the facts back out to them. Then I can refer you to a book, I can refer you to a podcast, or I can refer you to this and that. And then be humble enough that when you're wrong, and you say you're wrong. And then if you have an idea, you take it back to the board and say, hey, do we have the money, resources, and everything, and the people to do it? And then move it on from there. And I've met some of the greatest people around. Rich Whiskey's the president of Michigan. Right now, this next month, Michigan, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Virginia, and West Virginia, we're all going to get together, and we're talking about having a state where we're going to pull all the states together and have something in another location. I'll say that. Can't say it right now because we don't have everything ironed out. But all the presidents are going to start talking every month because we're all in the same kind of boat. Volunteerism, leadership, I visited 21 clubs and all the clubs are in about the same position. Someone's scared to step up, but if you put the training wheels on and you say, hey, you can be a representative or you can be a volunteer and help them help themselves. And then all of a sudden you find that they're absolutely great at doing something, social media, newsletter, this and that. And all of a sudden they like something and you really find those people. And other times, if they have to step away, family matter or other stuff than that, then they need to step away. But 99 out of 10, they come right back to you and go, hey, I'm back from, vacation or a family situation and I want to volunteer again. And you get some of your best people that if you give them the opportunity to learn it, they'll turn around and just, I wish everybody here on your podcast could see what was going on, but everything, all the people for OSBA staff really stepped it up this year.
They are everywhere and really on the game. They know what they're doing. You ask them a question, they know the answer, and it's a great team that you've assembled and working with you.
I'm happy. I'm very happy. And then I talked with my wife and she says, you sign up for another 2? And I said, I'll sign up for another 2. Then I turned them out and I said, I'll always be with OSBA. I'll die having bees. I said, I'm going to step back a little bit. I'll still help in the background doing my thing with the IT website, things like that. Mm-hmm. But I said, I got a good team and I believe in it. I joined OSBA as a life member with my mentor, Dwight Wilson, right off the bat. Something I love.
Well, Jamie, I know you are running the show here. People are knocking on the door. You're shooing them away. I appreciate you taking the time out of your biggest day of the year to talk with us, Beekeeping Today Podcast, and the listeners. And it's been totally my pleasure, our pleasure.
It's a pleasure talking to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.